Hi, everybody. It's January 30th, 2025, and this is the weekly Backdrop Dev meeting. We get together every week to just talk about development priorities for Backdrop CMS, primarily for core. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet, calling in from Oakland, California. I'm the technical lead for the Backdrop CMS project. I'm joined here by Martin and Justin. Martin, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, Martin Price, Yorkshire Pudding around Backdrop. I'm a Backdrop developer in Northeast England.
Thanks, Martin. And Justin?
Hi, I'm Justin Kaiser. I'm Kaiser JB on the internet. I'm in Muncie, Indiana, and I'm here to check out what's going on.
Great. Thanks for joining me today. So we have some news that's been published recently. We have a new blog post, a couple of new blog posts. First of all, Backdrop CMS is a sponsor for Florida Drupal Camp, which is coming up February 21st through 23rd in Orlando, Florida. Our core committer, Laren Baker, is also going to be giving a presentation called Backdrop to the Future, doing a recap of the 10 years of Backdrop releases and developments, and talking about how Backdrop is a viable solution for people moving over from Drupal 7 and just for people building new websites. So we have a new blog post commenting about that. And then we also published a blog post just yesterday about the upcoming end-of-life support for PHP versions prior to 7.1. So this is a spin-off from the conversation we had last week about, oh, I lost the issue number, about PHP 8.4 support. That the core committing team has determined that it's pretty much impossible to support PHP 8.4 and versions of PHP earlier than 7.1. So right now that means PHP 5.6 and 7.0 are the two versions that we are dropping support for. And this has to do with it's a strangely esoteric thing. It has to do with type hinting, that in previous versions of PHP, you could say some object or an array has a default value of null, and that was fine. And now in newer versions of PHP, you now need to explicitly state that parameter accepts a null value. So it's adding a question mark in like 40 different places in core is the crux of it. But that new question mark is a syntax that isn't supported by these earlier versions of PHP, making it impossible for us to support the old versions and the new versions at the same time. We did look around at our other CMSs in the space. In particular, we looked at WordPress, and we also looked at Civi CRM, which is tightly integrated into Backdrop. Both of them only support PHP 7.4 and higher. So we're only bumping to 7.1 because that's literally that's as far back as we could possibly support, and also support PHP 8.4. We wouldn't even drop support for PHP 5.6 at this juncture unless it wasn't like a technical impossibility for us to support that broad range. So anyway, that blog post is published out there under backdropcms.org/news. We're joined here by Laren as well. Hi, Laren. Welcome. I already mentioned that you'll be at Florida Drupal Camp in a couple of weeks with your new presentation. Exciting to see that be shown. We also, let's see, also in the news category, Izzy wrote a draft blog post that is a fictional retelling of how how Drop the Dragon was born. I need to read over this a little bit. It is definitely not factual. Um, Yeah, we'll need to see if this is appropriate for backdropcms.org or not, especially under the news section. Might be more fun, more appropriate as like a blog level post, but maybe if we put a disclaimer on it, that might be okay. I don't want people to be getting the wrong idea of where backdrop or drop the dragon originally came from. And who knows with with AI scanning our stuff and it could very, very easily start taking that as being real and not fake. I don't think AI and satire are really the compatible concepts. Okay. Let's see. We had some new projects come out this past week. Tiny MCE paging module to allow multiple pages being separated by a special indicator in Tiny MCE. Shaperific, which adds background images to pages, and Revision Helper, which just looks like a tweaks module for revision management. And I'll mention it, even though we said it last week, because Justin is here. The Konami code module was ported to Backdrop last week. Justin, can you give us a recap of what that module does?
It's just one of the goofy Drupal modules that allows you to add Easter eggs to your site. So there's a settings page and you can turn on all these actions and add like key codes to turn them on. Like yesterday, one of the things I read about was like, I think it's Cheetos Super Bowl commercial. They invented this font that is this goofy font that is like designed by someone if they had to use their offhand. So they had to design it left-handed if they were right-handed. So it's basically scribbles. So I downloaded this font and added it as one of these actions so you can make your site look awful with this crazy looking font. And you can also play asteroids on your webpage. So, I mean,
Excellent, thanks. I wasn't quite sure what happened when you typed in the Konami code, and I guess there's a bunch of choices.
there's going to be two more in Backdrop that don't exist in Drupal
Oh,
after
good.
I release them.
When you do the up, down, left, right, A, B, I get all of that part, but how do you do the select start? Is that tab returned or?
No, you just enter it and it goes. You enter the code and it goes.
Yeah, but select start is part of the Konami code, so I'm wondering what key is select in like on a
It's
keyboard.
it's not, well, there is a setting for a list of the codes, but the current code doesn't have start in it. It's just down, up, down, left, right, B, A, and then it goes.
Okay. Thank you. That answers my question. Okay. All right. Let's see. Lyron, I asked others if they had any topics they wanted to bring up, but since you joined late, is there anything you'd like to discuss specifically today?
Yeah, mainly a bug in the upgrade from Drupal 7 that I ran into, which is, I believe, since 130 blocking anybody from upgrading smoothly from Drupal 7. I have
Yeah, is this 6839? Looks like you filed it 3 days ago, so.
That sounds right.
Okay, great. It looks like there's already a pull request for it. So let's see, infinite loop in update.php. This affects everybody?
I believe it does affect everybody.
Hmm.
And I think what's happening is
Oh,
the redirects that happen in the update script, they can happen like basically once before the token is obliterated. And with the skipping the backup step, it's trying to redirect twice, and then the token doesn't match, so it goes back to the beginning.
Got it. Yeah. Where's this? Okay, so now it's set down here.
So it's moved out of a function and into the main, guts of the file.
Got it. Okay, great.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
let's-
basically, it moves that just because Indigo Zala suggested using that state, but it couldn't be used at the place I needed it. So I moved that to have the state set a little bit earlier so that I could use it. But then basically it just skips ahead earlier, so we don't have the two redirects. And
this is great that it fixes the issue. What I'm a little bit confused about is why the existing upgrade from Drupal 7 tests don't identify this problem. Because we do have test coverage that loads in a Drupal 7 database, visits update.php, and then checks to make sure it can update from Drupal 7, and then it checks the homepage to make sure that Backdrop has been upgraded from Drupal. So must be something.
Actually, I hadn't thought through to check the tests, but
yeah, there must be something incorrect with our test coverage. That it might be that the test coverage is not like clicking the links, it's instead like typing in the URLs. So it's like skipping over what is actually happening for users. But there should be a change to our test coverage in here too, to make sure that reflects whatever bug was being fixed here. Yeah, because and this is something, it looks like something that I introduced when we introduced the backup and restore functionality, that we move stuff around to make it so that the backup step gets skipped if you're upgrading from Drupal 7. And because I know I had to update the tests specifically to identify that it was getting skipped. So yeah, let's take a look at those upgrade tests. Excuse me. Okay, so this is important. There's other issues that are both pretty important too. This one, 6835, has to do. It's a edge case scenario, and we talked about this last week. But if your site is using a basis sub theme, but basis itself is not turned on, then the supplemental CSS selectors that were added cause a notice that we pass a null value into version compare. And there's a pull request available for this one as well. I think there might be a better solution in here, though, that if we put default value for this in basis.info file, then I think that this will solve the problem in a different way. So I'll post a comment on this issue about that. Okay, and then another 1.30 issue. We were talking about this one before the recording, that we had a new contributor post their first issue saying that they couldn't upgrade to Backdrop, or sorry, they couldn't install Backdrop 1.30 on their server, that they could install Backdrop 129 on. And there's some feedback in here that they're running the bare minimum version of both PHP and MySQL in order to run Backdrop. And so some of the initial feedback here was you should update your server, especially since, as I noted at the beginning of the call, their site definitely won't be able to run Backdrop 1.31 because we're going to bump the minimum PHP version. Nonetheless, this issue brings up that we accidentally made it so that some configurations of old versions of MySQL are no longer installing correctly. And this has to do with the simplified array syntax that we added to settings.php, that now the default configuration of Backdrop and settings.php sets up settings.php to have UTF-8 MB4 support, which is another way of saying emoji character support. And if you don't have emoji character support configured at your MySQL level, then the installation fails with this particular error. So if you've got an old version of MySQL and your server is already configured for emojis, which it should be, then Backdrop installs fine. But this has raised a question for everybody here, because nobody is able to test this solution. We have a pull request, but because MySQL 5.5 isn't available inside of Docker, it's not able to be used inside of DDEV or Lando or Tugboat, making it so that we think we have a solution, but nobody is able to test it because nobody has an old server laying around that is configured in the same way. And unfortunately, the original reporter, although originally responsive, hasn't come back and given us confirmation that the solution fixes the problem. So yeah, it raises the question of, can we support old software that we don't have the ability to test? And I would generally say, no, that if we can't test something, then we can't support it. However, we need to talk about that because we did increase the minimum MySQL version in Backdrop 1.30 to MySQL 5.5. But maybe we should have done 5.6 because we don't have the ability to test 5.5 inside of any of our testing systems.
Yeah, the lowest version available on Docker is 5.7.
Oh, did you say 7? 5.7?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have some challenges here. So for the time being, what makes a lot of sense for this particular issue is that there's 3-line change that we believe fixes the issue, but we're unable to confirm it. But we are able to confirm at least that this doesn't break anything on newer versions of MySQL and the things that we have test coverage for. So I would be inclined to say for this particular issue, if we are unable to get additional feedback, we proceed with the fix that we believe should fix the problem and we know doesn't cause any new problems. So for this particular issue, I think that, we proceed with this fix as we have it now. As for when we make a new release of Backdrop 1.30, between these 3 issues, it would be nice to have a follow-up release. I don't think that there's been any commits. Oh, wait, hang on, there's one. Oh, yeah, another Backdrop 1.30 issue. There's been one commit to 1.30 since the release. If we can get these 3 issues solved that we just talked about, I think that would, because they're all regressions, that would be a good goal for Backdrop 1.31. We also usually strive to have a release roughly 2 weeks after a minor version. So it's been 2 weeks as of yesterday. So I think our goal should be to try to have it. Well, since we have to get these follow-up commits in, our goal should be to get these fixes finalized and then have a release next week, probably midweek, like the 5th or 6th. So that's, I think, what we're going to be striving to do for the next week. All right. That's all I really have for today. Yeah, working on these regression issues and getting prepped for this bug fix release is what's directly in front of us. Does anybody have any other commentary or topics they'd like to bring up?
No.
No, I think getting it out as soon as we can is important. If we have people trying to upgrade and running stuck on the first screen, it's not a good look.
Yeah, that upgrade from 777, that's a real big issue. The other ones are kind of edge casey situations, but yeah, that one's a big deal. Justin, did you custom print your own backdrop hat there?
Sure did.
That looks great.
And I got a backdrop hockey jersey to go with my Drupal hockey jersey too.
Amazing. Well, Jen, we were just opening the floor for any other topics because we've covered everything that we had for today with Backdrop 1.31 being our objective for this next week. And we covered the couple of regression issues that we have open. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close the dev meeting?
Just the regression issues. So
Okay. Yep, we covered all those, I think. All right. Well, I think we'll close it for today then. That's what's in front of us. And yeah, we'll work on solving all those issues. Lots of news that's out there this week. And yeah, once we get this Backdrop 131 out, then we'll start looking forward to the next minor release and start planning that out, which right now there's not many major things allocated into that, but that'll be the release that comes out in May. So, all right, we'll close out for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And thanks to those people out there on the internet that watch these after the fact. So